Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister boasts of all-time low unemployment while addressing AmCham's 21st annual general meeting. Trinidad and Tobago welcomes newest hotel chain to its shores as the Radisson Hotel is launched after 2 years in the making. And State Enterprise National Flour Mills comes in for high praise for an after-tax profit of $21 million. Thank you for joining us. Trade agreements as well as expanded Trinidad and Tobago's economic advantage with enhanced skilled labor was the focus of AmCham's 21st Annual General Assembly. Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessor provided insight into this country's future with current government policy to members of the business sector.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessor says unemployment continues to remain at an all-time low. She made the statement during the 25th Annual AmCham General Meeting. The Prime Minister's decision comes after the report issued by the International Monetary Fund earlier this week projected economic growth for Trinidad and Tobago at 2.5% for the first quarter of 2014. She, however, made the call to members of the private sector to engage in the hiring process and capitalize on the emergence of personnel coming out from the skills and training programs the government continues to offer.
The unemployment rate in Trinidad and Tobago fell from 6.4% when I took office in 2010 to 4.7% in the fourth quarter of 2012 and to 3.7% in the first quarter of 2013. This means this is the lowest unemployment rate ever recorded in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. And this is better than even some of the larger countries that we talk about. You are investors, yes, but you're also employers, and therefore you would have had a very strong role to play within your grouping of being employers and therefore helping us to bring that inflation rate down in Trinidad and Tobago.
Referring to programs such as CPEP that add to the labour market, the Prime Minister says these areas remain vital to adding value to the skills sector.
We've been trying to use the programs to put a training component into it so that they can graduate out of the program. In fact, the Minister of People and Social Development had been engaged in such a program where you bring them in, URP Social, for example, where we can bring people in, keep them on a basic stipend coming out of that salary, but give them training. We're also doing it with a lot of the other programs for young people, where we give them a stipend in order as an incentive for them to stay in a training program. Bottom line answer is yes, there is still a need to keep some of these programs going.
This year's conference themed Trinidad and Tobago Achieving Sustainable Growth in a Changing Global Context, saw the Director of the Center for Hemispheric Policy, Dr. Susan Kaufman-Purcell, present the keynote address, where she provided insight into TNT's future in the global oil and gas market, as well as its shift in trading partnerships. A senior fellow in foreign relations who also served in the U.S. Department of State Policy gave advice to local businessmen on securing business in areas outside of common markets as one way of increasing trade among global players.
I think you have to decide whether, where your comparative advantages are, where your benefits are, and perhaps find some way to get involved with more dynamic trade regions, especially since you're different from the other countries in terms of what you have to have at stake in terms of your exports. I know this is a very controversial statement, but it seems to me that you should try and orient your trade toward the most dynamic and fastest growing regions, and everything I've read shows that the fastest growth in the coming years is going to be in Asia. And so you want to be part of that.
In response to this, Prime Minister Persad-Bissessor noted while challenges remain, the single market economy agreements with fellow CARICOM members still stand, and government's push for further enhanced business environment continues to remain a priority.
To make our future even better, we are looking to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You speak, the government listens. That is not a slogan. You speak, the government listens. Maybe we will listen and we cannot implement every single thing that you tell us. But those ideas, policies, suggestions that come forward will be considered from this national conversation, will be considered, put together to come up with further strategies for the development of Trinidad and Tobago. It is a way we can make the future of a country even better by working together.
Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Meanwhile, the Radisson brand was officially welcomed here in Trinidad and Tobago, and it was indeed a momentous occasion for all those who witnessed the official opening ceremony. Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar was on hand to officially open the Radisson Hotel, formerly Capital Plaza, and hails it as a great achievement in the tourism industry.
Daniel Nicholas, Managing Director of the Radisson Hotel, says almost 2 years ago his chairman began a search for a strong, vibrant and dynamic hotel brand that would help them achieve its objective of providing guests with leading standards, leading customer loyalty programs, and a global sales network to support the investment.
Key to this search was finding a global hotel brand with honorable executives with honorable intentions. I'm very happy to report that we found what we were searching for at Radisson Hotels and Resorts.
Radisson Beach and Resorts, he says, is owned by the Carlson Company. The managing director says it is the largest private company in the world, encompassing more than 1,340 hotels in operation and under development.
In over 105 countries and territories, more than 930 restaurants operating in over 60 countries and territories, and a majority stake in the Carlson Wagonlit Travel, a global leader in business travel management operating in more than 150 countries and territories.
Delivering remarks at the event was Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar, who commended the Carlson Hotel Group for the confidence they have placed in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago and for this substantial investment in the country.
I recognize and thank Allied Hotels Limited and its chairman for their outstanding commitment to the hospitality industry and for their partnership with Carlson Residor Hotel Group. The group has a successful history in global hospitality, a rich expertise across all key segments and business models in industry. And we are very proud to have you, sir, to have your company as part of our business family in Trinidad and Tobago.
She adds their presence here in Trinidad and Tobago is testament to the healthy business environment which has been created over the years, which has attracted many other multinational companies to set up operation here.
On our country's diversification process, indeed, tourism is figured as a critical component, and my government will continue to facilitate many more similar investments in our country, as well as being a significant partner with all relevant stakeholders. I'm certain that you will all agree that there are many good opportunities available in the tourism industry, and I encourage others to take advantage of these as we continue to take our nation forward on the path to sustainable development and prosperity for all.
The Prime Minister underscored that she was extremely happy for the confidence the Carlson Company have placed in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago with this large investment. She also thanked them for the many employment opportunities created for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This partnership, she adds, can only bring success in the future. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
When we come back, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas says there is strength in numbers. Stay with us. Welcome back. There is strength in numbers. This is the reminder being given to CARICOM by Prime Minister of the Bahamas, the Honorable Perry Christie, as the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus continues to commemorate CARICOM's 40 years of existence.
The St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies is hosting open lectures by CARICOM leaders to celebrate CARICOM's 40th anniversary. The lecture series focuses on CARICOM by exploring its usefulness to the region and its future. Delivering his feature address at the second lecture in the series, Bahamian Prime Minister the Honorable Perry Christie says CARICOM must not be afraid to use its strength in numbers to make a point of view known and arrive at a common consensus.
CARICOM as a body must at all times use its full weight in the international community to make its point of view known. I hold dearly to that point of view. Not only does it have the numbers, but it has the intellectual depth and moral authority as well. There is, in my view, a need to be forthright in the art of leveraging, which is the current expression for the use of the strength of CARICOM unity in the region, the hemisphere, and the world. We are stronger within the context of a group of 15 sovereign nations rather than seeking to go it alone. Sometimes it is not possible for all of us to vote as a solid bloc, but for the Bahamas, it is essential that we at least know what each other is doing and that we understand the rationale for doing what we do.
The Bahamian Prime Minister laments the indifference displayed toward CARICOM by the region's citizens, particularly his countrymen. He suggests measures be taken to highlight the importance of CARICOM to citizens of the member states, starting with the Bahamas.
The region, the Bahamas, both suffer from the lack of proper exchanges about information and development. It is important for us to change these perceptions and for there to be an increased exchange of ideas. In pursuance of this, I have suggested that at the earliest opportunity, fellow heads should visit the Bahamas and take the opportunity to meet our people and speak to the issues of the region at an appropriate forum in both Nassau and in Freeport. You know, this thing about relevance, and you'll see as I move towards a conclusion, that unless we are able to understand that the nexus or the connections or connectivity, that we have to work on relevance, that people in the Bahamas must see CARICOM as a relevant agency to their existence and vice versa.
Prime Minister Christie says despite challenges faced by the regional grouping, his country remains committed to CARICOM and the tenets which govern its existence.
The Bahamas is a part of this region. We have worked together with the region and will continue to work within the context of the region on a broad range of issues. The Bahamas supports common approaches towards attracting trade, investment, and development of the region, utilizing what the Foreign Minister of Trinidad and Tobago has called convergence, the coming together of our numbers and our pooled sovereignty, research and development, outreach beyond the region, and the use of private-public partnerships. The Bahamas believes that investment in our young people, in their training, in the enhancement of their talents, in the sports and in culture, will inure to the greater benefit of the region. In a line, it simply makes sense. It goes without saying that I see a positive future for the CARICOM region, with the Bahamas being an integral part of working together for the good of all our peoples and for our mutual benefit and development.
The University of the West Indies plans to hold further open lectures in this series as it celebrates CARICOM's 40 years. The next lecture is expected to take place by July of this year. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
In other news, the licensing authority will be replaced by a new government agency if the Ministry of Transport's legislation for revolutionizing the authority becomes operational. Minister of Transport, the Honourable Stephen Cadiz, was in Tobago recently for consultations with stakeholders on the proposed changes. Here's more in this report.
No longer will we have what is known as the licensing office. This is going to be a professionally run business, which is going to be the Motor Vehicle Authority.
That was the introduction that the Minister of Transport, Stephen Cadiz, gave at the Magdalena Grand Beach Resort for the legislation that would rename the licensing authority and remodel its entire operation. He says that the new Motor Vehicle Authority will issue driving permits that will have all the information on them, which can be read by a law enforcement official anywhere with a machine. The official will be able to access a system for chronic offenders, individuals with unpaid tickets, or people who obtain their driver's permits through fraud.
The driving permit will also have, we will also have a point system. So if you are a chronic speeder, chronic reckless driver, for whatever it is, soon you will not be able to drive in Trinidad and Tobago because the point system will determine whether or not you should be allowed to drive. Because some of us should not be allowed to drive.
There will even be new policies in place for parking that protect the differently abled.
Yesterday, I went to the grocery, and whilst I was there twice in the disabled parking area, painted in bright blue with the image of a wheelchair, painted, there's a sign for disabled or differently abled persons, and neither of the vehicles that had parked there were differently able, unless my eyes were deceiving me. Big hardback strapping men, okay, jump out the car and gone in the grocery, not once, twice. These are things that the MVA are going to stop.
The change for Tobago also comes with relocation for the current office. Minister Cadiz reveals that the Tobago House of Assembly was asked to recommend a new location for the full-service centre on the island, which will replace the licensing office at Lambo.
We are going to have in Tobago a what is known as an access center, a full-service access center, where where I would say 99.9% of the services that would be offered by the Motor Vehicle Authority, you will actually have those available in Tobago. So whether it is the licensing of heavy vehicles, whether it is transferring any issue regarding motor vehicles, you're going to be able to have it right here in Tobago. You will no longer have to go down to Trinidad or send files down to Trinidad for approval, etc.
As it regards staffing for new operation, Transport Commissioner Ruben Cato explains that there are challenges with getting new workers. He says that there has been 2 enforcement officers in Tobago for several decades, while the motor vehicle on the island has tripled over 30,000.
As it is, recruitment is being done by the Public Service Commission, and we are not getting any persons from that institution. So the authority will be responsible for employment of persons. So we'll have the sufficient staff to deal with situation in Tobago, not only in Tobago but also in Trinidad. But I'm saying Tobago because we are here in Tobago, and Mr. Diffu here have been doing PD Trinity in 1, inspection, registration, everything. And if for some reason he is sick, then basically Tobago goes down.
According to Mr. Cato, what the ministry is attempting to do is not fix licensing, but replace it, because attempts since 1991 to make the licensing authority more efficient have not worked. He notes that with the MVA, there will be a new institution and a new mindset. Reporting from Tobago, Natoya Johnson, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. The 50th edition of the Southern Games took place over the weekend at Guacara Park with a full slate of track and field as well as cycling events. The 2-day sporting extravaganza was broadcast live right here on TV4. But in case you missed the action, we will bring you highlights of some of the marquee events. Here's Wayne Cunningham with cycling from day one.
Following a brief opening ceremony, Southern Games 2014 got down to the cycling action, and a big race came early in the form of the men's elite category, 1 and 2, 1,000 meters with feature class field. So this one was expected to be tight.
Eastman is trying hard there. Whoa!
Very close, very close.
Now here it is. Eastman is on the inside. Try to look at Therese Smart on the outside, pushing hard. Right now it looks like it's still Eastman, but look at Varun in the center, trying to get his bike there. Look at how he throws the bike at the line. Yeah! Eastman might have just got it up there.
The men's international 500 sprint also grabbed the full attention of the massive crowd in Pointe-a-Pierre. A national team rider, Jude Codrington, did not disappoint.
Marlo Rodman now trying to wind it up. Karen Bramble seems to be blocked on the inside. Yuri Havik of Holland trying to get into the mix. It is Marlo Rodman leading Jude Codrington. Marlo Rodman leading Codrington. Rodman, Codrington, Jamaica. Will he hold off? It's going to be a flat out Photo finish. It looked like Jude Covington of Trinidad and Tobago, unofficially.
Amongst the junior ladies, Jordan St. George impressed on the weekend, and here she is taking the 500 meters.
Jordan St. George driving it home. Will she be able to hold off? She will. Jordan St. George, number 271.
In the senior ladies international, Aziza Brown of Arima Wheelers hitting the line first.
Blue team of Rick Texonics. Aziza Brown is right there with her. And that's the way they come around. It is Palmer from Brown. Here comes Brown on the outside. Aziza Brown, top international cyclist. Aziza Brown taking the victory, number 185 for Arima Wheeler.
Urban Born blew away the field in the men's elite categories 3 and 4, 1,000 meters.
It looks like Urban Born, it just might be. Urban Born riding for Southampton Wheelers. They will have to fight for second and third. Here comes Brendan Phillip trying to pass on the outside. Nicholas Lopez trying to get in the mix. But it is Urban Born of Southampton.
In the men's elite 2,000 meters, Jamaican rider Linford Blackwood jumped out front early and kept that lead to the tape, with Jamal Eastman of Barbados in second.
He is in the back straight away. There goes Jamal Eastman. Varun Mirage right there with them as well. They will not catch Linford Blackwood, or will they? It's gonna be very, very close. Linford Blackwood of PSL will take the victory. It's gonna be close to second, third, and fourth.
But it was a battle for third between Varun Maharaj and Samuel Alain, which grabbed the attention of the crowd. And the officials give it to Maharaj. Look out for athletic action on Thursday. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
Thank you very much, Wayne Cunningham. A very exciting Southern Games weekend. In other news, Senator the Honourable Vasant Bharat, Minister of Trade, Investment and Communications, has praised the board management and the union at the National Flour Mills Limited for what he describes as a remarkable turnaround. After years of decline, the state enterprise recorded an after-tax profit of $21 million for the year 2013.
Really, it is unusual that a minister can pronounce that a state enterprise has actually been profitable in the last 12 months. So it's particularly, it's a particular delight for me. Over the years, we've seen declining profits, we've seen declines in share price, we've seen a decline in loss of markets. Nothing spectacular for a state enterprise, I might add. In fact, quite in keeping. And so therefore, it is really a tribute to the management, it's a tribute to the board, it's a tribute to Mr. Anizet and his union that they have been able over the last 12 months or so to make this really remarkable turnaround.
However, in spite of doing exceedingly well, Minister Bharat called on the Board of National Flour Mills to do whatever is necessary to ensure the company remain vibrant in this global business arena.
What we're seeing now is an organization that is coming to terms with the reality of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago, with the reality that they don't only operate in a Trinidad and Tobago space, but with the reality that we now suffer from global competition. Whether we like it or not, we can't turn that clock back. Whether we like it or not, I'm not going to be able to continue to go to CARICOM year after year and get a protection for our flour, which is what I do, from external competition outside of the CARICOM region. Those are the realities.
The minister explained that all state enterprises must come to terms with the new way in which business is being done in the modern world, for instance, becoming up to date with the latest technology and finding efficient ways to facilitate the ease of doing business. He says this is the only way they would remain competitive. Felicia Wilson, More News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 Report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.